I'm Nadia Taylor, Training and Exercise Manager for the Readiness Support Center. And this is Semper Gumby, a podcast about emergency management in the Corps of Engineers. We'll cover topics about disaster response and recovery, FEMA mission assignments, and Corps-specific response authorities under which we operate for things like flood fighting and coastal emergencies. Today we're going to be talking about logistics, specifically the logistics support teams on the military side and the logistics planning and response teams on the civil side. Now, the civil side responds to civil domestic emergencies, and then, of course, the military side, the logistics support teams, they respond to overseas contingencies for the most part. But we'll let our experts talk to you about that, and those experts today are Norbert Zimmerman and Steve Ridenour. So, Norbert, what do you do for the Corps?
I'm a logistics planner for the Corps of Engineers out of Millington, Tennessee.
And Steve, what do you do for the Corps?
I'm the lead logistics planner for the Corps of Engineers located in Millington, Tennessee in the Logistics Plans and Operations Division.
All right, guys, so let's start with the civil side, our logistics planning and response teams. So when there's a disaster, what happens to enact the logistics planning and response team getting activated?
The affected area sends out a tasker through IngeLink and asks for our support.
So what support does that logistics team provide?
We go in and we take over the emergency side of the house from the district's logistics team in order to enable them to go back to normal everyday duties, taking care of the district's needs. So our LPRT shows up. They work directly for the emergency operations chief, the EOC chief in the district, or the district commander, or the recovery field office commander. In doing so, we find hotels, we find rental cars, we plan for visibility of equipment. We do the property accountability of equipment issued to those responders. We also interact with FEMA representatives in order to get that equipment if it's special needs or whatever it might be. We also do the facilities as far as maintenance and working with contracting or real estate to locate a site, to secure that site, and to make it operational. When the logistics goes in, we're just part of the team. We're an enabling factor with the rest of the Corps' competencies.
So in a disaster, it sounds like logistics is kind of first there to set up everything for our other teams, like debris teams and power teams and that sort of thing. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we're setting up just recovery field offices if we get that mission, or do we set up other things if a recovery field office is not actually stood up?
We can actually work with an ISB, initial staging base, that maybe the Corps may create or FEMA may create and ask us to be a part of that. We also just work with the district. If the district does not have set up an RFO, we just work within the EOC chief's realm of where he sets us up and says, hey, I'm just going to operate out of my EOC shop. We perform the same functions as we would anyplace else.
And a good example of that was just this last winter. We only needed 2 of our LPRT team members to go to Memphis and augment them, and they stayed right there at the district to augment their EOC team, like Steve just mentioned.
And that was during the winter floods?
Yes.
So why is it important to have, on the civil side, these LPRTs deploy?
Basically, we're going to handle help process the personnel into the area of operations. And by doing so, we make sure they're equipped correctly and that we establish what we call a RSLI, which is reception, staging, and onward integration process. But the importance is that somebody's tracking all this stuff. And if we set up early, that means that's the faster that responder can get into the field and start doing their job in the recovery process.
So once everything is set up and everybody is in process, do the logistics PRTs go away, or do you stay there and track the mission through closeout?
We track it through closeout because the stuff you issue out, you also have to have that turned in and accounted for and given back to its right entities. You know, logistics, we have a saying in the military, you're the first in and last out. You have to be there from cradle to grave. Your job's not done when the mission's done. Your job is still going on because your mission is to make sure everything's closed out appropriately. Need a signature. If I'm giving you something, even if it's a pen, I got something in a book annotated that I issued that pen out. It's all about accountability, even if it's that small and that minute to you, but not to us, the bean counters. We as loggies, at least myself, logisticians, I have a saying, in God we trust, all others must sign, because that's what it's all about. It's cradle to grave with logistics.
Let's turn to the military side of logistics with our logistics support team, or LST. Now, what does this team do, and how is it different from our civil side?
They're basically trained specifically to go with the military and to support military operations. So all of our team members that are LST members are also trained to be LPRT members. It's just a higher level, the LST team is. It's one more notch up for additional training for them. Those people who with the LST are trained specifically for overseas operations into a immature environment or into a mature theater of operation. It depends on the specific needs of the mission. If the mission calls for a small footprint for logistics, we may even stay right here in CONUS, but we support them overseas.
So our logistics support teams, do they only deploy with our FEST teams or our forward engineer support teams, or do they support other military teams?
They can support anything as far as overseas operations. That's what they're specifically trained to do, both military and civil if necessary. We know that the Corps of Engineers responds to natural disasters and supports that kind of situation, such as in Haiti and other places. In American Samoa, the tidal wave, we responded there. We sent a full team forward to Hawaii, and they operated the reach-back operation out of Honolulu District and supported everybody downrange and getting them there. The logistics support team, it can be on the ground with the warfighter or with the support element, whatever it may be, whether it may be environmental, real estate, or it could be USAID, so it just really depends. We serve a lot of customers out there.
The logistics support teams, they consist of 20 personnel in all facets of logistics, so we keep a hefty number. We like to have more, but that's what we're limited to is 20 to support those missions at a moment's notice or 24 to 36 hour or even a 6-hour notice.
So how do we keep these members and these teams trained up?
We do annual training. We'll go to separate districts across the United States, and we'll ask very gracefully the EMs and the EOCs, the emergency management side of the house, the emergency operations centers, to be invited into our humble abode to train these people and let them know what we can do to augment them when the need arises during a natural disaster.
So it's important that our volunteers are taken care of well and trained well so that they're ready to go. As far as the LST training goes, they do the LPRT training so that they know the basic concepts of RSO&I and those other things that need to be done. But then annually, every 2 years, we bring them to Mobile, to the RSC, and we do the CREST, INVEST, and logistics training, and that's put on by led by a military planner. So, and then we work with the other two disciplines in order to make sure that we understand each other and with the INVEST and CREST. So we have points that touch together and that everybody understands their role and their responsibilities and how each one can help the other one to make sure that we get the mission done for those FEST members and military members overseas.
Okay, and just to be clear, INVEST is Environmental Support Team and CREST is Contingency Real Estate Team. And all three of these factions, INVEST, CREST, and Logistics Support Team, function together in overseas contingencies, or at least they can, so they train together as well.
That's correct. And thanks to the military planners over the last several years, that has really been pushed to the forefront, that team concept of the three disciplines working together as one organization in order to support the mission.
So logistics really touches on every other mission. And in a lot of the other missions, they're really high stakes, high tempo stuff. USNR, not that we do that a lot, but debris, temporary emergency power. The battle rhythm is high and 24 hours, and there's lots of stress. So what about on the logistics teams? What's a deployment like for our deployees that way? Is there stress like in other missions?
I'd have to say there is, because as long as those teams are operational, we're there operating with them, and we have to be available to them to give them what they need. Sandy was a very high op tempo and special needs, pumps that we didn't have, we had to go find. Waiters for the soldiers and the people to use to wait in that water during Sandy. That was not an item that at that point in time we knew how to get, but we had to go find a way to get it because that's what the general said he wanted. The stress is trying to anticipate what that responder is going to need. Finding them rooms during Sandy was atrocious, and it was our responsibility to find them rooms so that they could go in, get a rest, get a shower, clean up, and eat. That's our stress, trying to take care of the responders and the people in that district there and make sure everything goes like it's supposed to, as smoothly as possible.
No, you're absolutely right, Steve. I mean, just when you think you got your pre-plan figured out of what you're going to need Alpha through Double Zulu and supplies and equipment, and here comes another thing that the general wants. Oh, what about this? Oh, we forgot that. So if you keep copious notes, the more missions you do, you get better at anticipating what the higher echelon folks want for your mission.
Stress for us is largely self-imposed in order to meet the needs of those responders and to meet the needs of the public in order to get them what they need. If the power guys don't have their generator there, they don't have the right stuff to reset and go again, then and they don't have fuel filters for their generators. Prime example was, I can remember back to American Samoa. We deployed the generators. We also had to move those generators. The only aircraft in the world that could move the generators they needed was the Antonov 225. It's a Russian aircraft. We had to have special clearance to get it into the United States in order to pick the generators up to move it to American Samoa. The logistics did that. So that's what we do. I mean, that's a crisis that we face, and we have to answer those calls when they're ready.
What kind of qualities are inherent in a good logistician?
Someone that can do something on their own, be very proactive, don't need to follow somebody, they need to lead. They need to be good at talking to people, good at scrounging, if you would, obtaining supplies, equipment. You just have to be very well-rounded. You can't be shy. You can't be an introvert. You have to know what your job's all about and not be afraid to tackle it, not be afraid to communicate with people, because that's what it's all about. If you can't communicate well, you're probably not a prime candidate for that job.
You have to be somewhat aggressive in your approach to getting the mission done, because if you're not, you will get pushed out of the way. And so many times logistics is looked at as one of our friends says, it's like medicine. You only take it when you have to. But when you need it, you need it. And if it's not there, then there'll be somebody hollering, why isn't logistics here? Why didn't they do this? And the blame game starts. So we try to be aggressive in what we do and hopefully we don't make any mistakes. But just like anybody else, we're human. We will make a mistake, I can guarantee it. We just hope we don't make very many of them.
We need to be there when they ask for us, but we need to be included from the front as a preventive maintenance or medicine so the issues and all the troubles won't happen along the way. So it can be a nice, clean mission with everything turned into its right entities at the end. And if you want to be a member of any of these teams, we have an email address that anyone can apply to. It's CELA-LOC, and that stands for Corps of Engineer Logistics Activity Logistics Operations Center. And we're located in Milton, Tennessee, or you can call us at 901-874-8184, and you'll speak to yours truly.
All right, guys. Well, let's wrap it up here. And I just wanted to say again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Well, it's our pleasure. We've enjoyed it. Thanks, Nadia.
That's all we have for today's episode. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you've learned something. Please subscribe to our feed and check back for future episodes. I'm Nadia Taylor, and this is Semper Gumby.